Have you ever wondered why your iPhone videos end up always looking a little too crisp, a little too clean, and a little too sharp around the edges? And right now, of course, there's a lot of hype around achieving that filmic, more vintage look in your videos. Now, of course, it's great to have that clean, crisp, sharp footage right out of your iPhone when you're documenting just about anything. But of course, there's something so cool about getting that more vintage look where the edges are softer, the image is warmer, and it looks a little bit more organic and natural, just like film. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can get that filmic, more retro look with your iPhone. Now, there are two items that I used in conjunction with the iPhone to achieve this look. The first thing that I used was the SANDMARC Anamorphic 133 lens. And the second thing that I used was the SANDMARC Retro filter. So I'll start off by explaining what exactly the SANDMARC Retro filter is. It's a polarizer, so it's going to reduce reflections a little bit. And it's also a diffusion filter, so it's going to act like a pro mist where it's going to really soften out the brighter spots of your image, the highlights, the hot spots. So the places in the image where you can really see a difference with this diffusion is going to be the hot spots of your image. So this can be from a direct light source like neon lights, string lights, lamps, anything like that, or the edges around objects that are being illuminated from the back by a bright light source. Compare that with the digital look that you get right out of your iPhone, and you can see that the iPhone makes it really crisp and really clean around the edges, whereas the filter adds this nice, organic, more filmic look to it. But there's another thing that I used in the last cinematic that I shot with the 15 Pro iPhone, and that was the SANDMARC Anamorphic 133 times squeeze. Anamorphics already interact with light and bokeh in a really nice, more filmic way, and this goes further to complement the retro style by having golden flares. So just to quickly recap what the anamorphic lens does, it's gonna squish your image together, and so you're gonna have to de-squeeze the image, and when you de-squeeze the image from an anamorphic lens, it's going to make your footage automatically widescreen. So you're gonna have that cutoff on the top and the bottom of the image. So just keep that in mind when you're using the anamorphic lens. Instead of the more radial flare that you'll see on more spherical lenses, the anamorphic is going to stretch that horizontally, and that's how you achieve that really cool horizontal lens flare effect. So now let's talk about how I mounted this on the iPhone. So this is the iPhone 15 Pro, and this is a SANDMARC Pro leather case. You can use just a regular Pro case. This particular one that I used was the sand leather case, so you're just going to put that on your iPhone. And these cases have areas where you can screw the lens in. It's metal to metal, it's super sturdy. So first I'm gonna put the anamorphic lens on the iPhone. So I'm gonna screw it in onto the very bottom camera because that's the 48 megapixel camera. And then you'll want to align the lens so that it is parallel to the lines on your iPhone. That way you know the image is not gonna be distorted. And then putting the retro filter or any of the SANDMARC filters on is very straightforward. There's threading on the lens itself. So all I'm gonna do is put that on, a couple quick twists, and it is already applied and ready to go. So I use the DJI Osmo gimbal, and one of the main reasons I use this gimbal is that it has a place to screw in counterweights. And here is the SANDMARC counterweights. I screwed all of them together so that it would be enough. With the counterweights, it's able to stabilize the iPhone even though it has the lens and the filter both on one side of it. So why did I use the DJI Osmo? Why did I use a gimbal for my footage? Why not just go handheld? The reason being is that when you use an anamorphic lens, every single little shake that you introduce into the camera is going to give your video a lot of image wobble. Any moving shots, you'll need a gimbal with the anamorphic lens. So let's talk about the fun part, the video settings that I used and the video settings that I recommend that you use as well. If you're shooting with your iPhone, I'd highly recommend that you switch over to the Blackmagic Camera app. If you have the iPhone 15 particularly, you can use the Apple log setting in this app. And so you're able to shoot in the Apple log color profile. And one of the really cool things about this is, sure, if you have the Pro, you can shoot ProRes. However, if you don't want your video shoot to take up hundreds of gigabytes, just for a moderately short project, and you're not going to be doing a ton of super intensive pro level color grading, I recommend that you switch over to H.265 or H.264. The reason that I used H.265 is being a newer codec, it's more efficient with storage, And so it allows me to shoot in 60 frames per second, even though I'm shooting at 4K. If you use H.264, it's likely gonna run a lot smoother, especially if you're using an older laptop, older technology to edit the video. However, it is not in the efficiency range to allow you 60 frames per second when you are shooting 4K. Something to keep in mind. I shot H.265 because I could, but if it's really slowing you down, you can also just generate proxies in your editor before you begin editing. So enough of the codec color profile stuff. Let's talk about shutter speed. If you want all the details on the best iPhone video settings, I do have a video where I talk in detail about that, just the video settings. But just to quickly recap, if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, you should be at 1/48 shutter speed or 1/50, 1/60, around there to achieve a natural motion blur. And if you're shooting 60 frames per second, 1/120 would be the ideal shutter speed to do for the natural motion blur. And if you shoot in 60 frames per second, you can slow down your footage to 40%. Now, in terms of white balance, it's easy, especially using an iPhone, to just set it to auto white balance. I definitely recommend that you don't use auto white balance because if you're seen in the middle of a long shot, shifts lighting as you're walking, as you're moving, something's happening, the white balance is going to automatically adjust to that. I don't recommend you use auto white balance to set white balance when your retro filter is on. Feel free to do this when the retro filter is off your camera and then put it on after you've set it. The reason is that the retro filter is going to have a nice specific warm glow that it adds over the native image. So if your iPhone has the retro filter on it and it's trying to do an auto white balance, it's going to notice that the image looks too warm, and so it's going to try to compensate for that by lowering the white balance a bit and cooling the image down. But you don't want that. You want the nice warm glow that the retro filter automatically adds itself. So for this particular video, I really didn't do a lot of color correcting to my footage because I really wanted to showcase the natural colors, the natural look that came right out of using the anamorphic and the retro filter on the iPhone. I didn't really do any color grading. I did some color correction to get the exposure right, to get contrast right. I did the same for the launch video where I just used the retro filter. I didn't really do any color grading because I wanted to show the natural colors that come from using the retro filter on its own. DaVinci Resolve has a really quick node you can use. It's called Ace's Color Transform. If you drop that effect onto your node tree, you can go ahead and quickly input the color as coming from Apple Log and then go straight to Rec 709. And that's the quickest way to do it. Now, if you go underneath that node in chronology, that's where you can adjust your exposure and contrast, all that good stuff. So my process for this project was pretty simple. I just wanted to convert it basically to Rec 709, balance the image, and then export it from there. However, you can use the retro filter any way you want. It can be a great foundation for you to start building your own color grade on top of that. And if you're just using a filter and you're not using a lens or anything, you can just screw this into a clip. And you can just snap it right over your iPhone like so, and you're ready to shoot in no time. So in short, that's how I got the more cinematic retro feel, more filmic feel to my iPhone footage. So be sure to check out the full cinematic video and the launch video that I shot with the retro filter and try it out for yourself. See what type of footage that you can get, how creative you can be with the SANDMARC retro filter. And as always, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our future videos.